Okay, Ryan, Dean Leggy and Ryan Curley here again. What's scarier for opponents, that Georgia won the national championship in 2021 with 25 NFL players that have been drafted, or that they replaced 15 of them in 2022 and went undefeated? I'm projecting that they had 10 guys drafted. We don't know at this time. I think it's a pretty good question. Like, which of these two seasons was scarier for their foes? Your comment, was it the fact that they could get 25 guys that would eventually be drafted onto one team, or is it that they replaced more than half of those guys and won a national championship going away the next year?
I I want to say that it was the replacing,
Okay.
but something I've thought about a little bit recently is I need to see a picture of that 2021 defense with all the guys that were in the rotation or just got because
Okay.
because dude, the, we're not even thinking about like Jamon Dumas Johnson and Smile Mondon and some
Yeah.
of those guys that were on that team too. We're gonna look back at that 2021 team and defense, but yeah, dude, those are 3 first round picks right there.
Yeah.
We're going to look back at that 2021 defense more specifically, and you're going to look down at the list, and I mean, I everyone's jaws are just going to drop when they really see it all condensed in one spot after a year or two from now, when everyone from that team has had their opportunity to get drafted.
Quay Walker.
I mean, from their first team, second team, third team guys, all of them were just
Yeah.
NFL guys, and I don't know when the next time we'll see one team that loaded is. I think it's going to be at least a couple more years. I mean, it had been what? I mean, Alabama had a team, you know, similar to that like 10 years prior, maybe in 2015 or 16. So it might be a few more years before we see a team loaded like that.
That is a good question. I think Clemson had some really good defenses. I don't know that they had this many
They just
good
didn't have
players.
the depth, man. Not the
No,
depth
no,
like
they
that.
they've
Yeah.
never had they haven't had very good players. They've had very good star players, quarterbacks that have been very good. But Georgia, you know, I don't know what's going to be remembered here. Is it going to be that that Stetson Bennett was the quarterback? Was it going to be how good the defenses were? Was it going to be? Is it going to be Todd Monken? Is it going to be all Kirby? Are these the only two national championships they're going to win?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think so, but we
I don't
don't
think so.
we don't know.
Well, I think that, one of the interesting things about you look at this, I mean, they're two individual runs, they're national championship runs.
Okay.
When you look at them, like just the story around, there's so much of a story around each of them, kind of more so than when you look at some other national champion. There are stories in each championship, but the fact that there were so many different stories within, I mean, the Stetson Bennett part of it is a whole thing, the defense, but there's so many different things about it. And at the end of the day, it's one giant story with these teams. I don't know. I guess because I'm not really, and I guess I'm too close to the situation to know what the outside perception of it is.
Well, LSU 19 was a pretty remarkable story.
Yes.
Throwing that all together. When Clemson won the national championship with a true freshman in 19, or in 18, but that was basically done the year before that with Alabama, and Tua Tagovailoa, or whoever the starter was that day or year. Um, um, but this so LSU was as dominant as Georgia. Okay. Um, I don't know if in a 30-game run, no one's been as dominant as this group. And in that 30 days, excuse me, in that 30 games, they've had two different quarterbacks, really a different defense, different running backs. The receivers have sort of been the same, I guess. I mean, George Pickens left, and so forth. But
Two different
um,
defensive coordinators.
two different defensive coordinators. So there's been transition, and I just do I do not think they've won their last national championship at all. Personally, I mean, I think that that Georgia's position in a way, that they won it in 21. they should have. And they got beat pretty solidly by Alabama that day, but then they beat Alabama pretty solidly, to be honest with you, in the national championship game. Just neither team played well in the first half. Um, but they should have won it in 22 as well. I mean, they were the best team. They had the best players with the best coaches, and you know, you don't. I'll tell this story real quick because some people know Rusty. So Rusty, of course, knows Kirby for some time now, and I was walking from the front of this gigantic. There's so many things that people don't see behind the scenes. You know what I mean, Ryan? Like, I'm trying to describe the giant photo room, which is how many basketball courts is the photo room for the national championship? Four, maybe. It's the size of maybe four basketball courts.
Oh
It's
man, I don't know if it's
it's
that
it's a
big.
significant it's a significant
It's huge.
space. Yeah, it's a significant space. And I walked past him and I said, uh, I said to him, hey, man, he doesn't even have to be the best coach tonight, Kirby. He's got the best team. All he's got to do is win. That's it. And it's true. And I can't remember what Rusty said, but I mean, I don't see how he could have disagreed, to be honest with you. But Kirby's gotten it to the point where he has the best team. Now, he didn't always have the best team. I mean, in 17, should they have won the national championship?
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
question. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
You know,
dude, when you have a double digit lead in the fourth quarter, yeah, you should win that game.
okay, all right. Um I mean, Ohio State thinks you're wrong,
It's the
but
same thing. Ohio State should have no, Ohio State should have beat Georgia that night.
if they should have beat Georgia, then they would have beat Georgia. I mean,
Look, it's a
Georgia, Georgia,
complicated way.
Georgia made plays in the fourth quarter. Alabama did. Excuse me. Ohio State did not. And in the fourth quarter of the Bama Georgia game, Bama made plays, and I'm talking about in 17. But just so we're mentioned basically four programs, which have basically been the four programs, and I throw LSU in there too. But when you look at where we're at right now, man, Alabama had this in about 10 years ago. It was actually more about 12 years ago that they had what we're seeing right now at Georgia. Clemson didn't go back to back. It went Alabama, Clemson, Alabama, Clemson. So they kind of swapped it back and forth for a while. Did they go Alabama, Clemson? Yeah,
I think
15,
that you're
16,
right.
17, 18. Yeah. So, neither of the two of them really had a stranglehold on the whole thing. LSU, whatever. But Ohio State hasn't won it since 14. What we're watching right now at Georgia is the question remains what the future will hold. But it doesn't seem to me like there's a natural team in Georgia's way. However, I do think LSU will be a big deal over time. And I think the fact that LSU and Alabama are both in the same league with Georgia, that complicates things for the Dogs and both of them too. So, can Georgia continue to do it? In other words, can they replace 10 players who are drafted in the 2023 NFL draft? Yeah, they can. They've proven that. But it's hard to keep doing that. That's a challenge. Bama did it, but not, they didn't do it all the time. They basically won the national championship, took a year off, won the national championship. That's what it was for them.
No, I mean, I think that's what greatness is, right? Like
Yeah,
as a
it
program and a
is.
coach, if you can replace them every year and compete for a national championship every year, which I think is where we're at, it,
Yeah.
as far as the Georgia team goes, like I think that's just the situation we're in and we're watching. Like that's where we're at in college football. Like Georgia is doing what you're talking about. Is doing what Alabama did, and Alabama's still doing it. It's not like they're
Well,
not doing it.
they are. I mean, Clemson, it's still, we're going to see. I mean, the one thing I'll say about Georgia and Alabama both, they have combined to play of the 12 national championship spots since 2017. They have played in, um, they have played in 7 of the 12 spots. So more than half of the spots, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. 7 of the 12 spots have been Georgia and Alabama. 17, 18, 20, 22, 23. So that's a lot of dominance between those two schools. And, naturally, when Georgia wins the national championship and Alabama doesn't even get to the playoff, you immediately think, you know, this isn't, but this is back to back years, one of which was at the Cheez It Bowl for Clemson. So they've got some real work to do. LSU's not been back into the playoff. Says, why are you laughing about the Cheez It Bowl, man? What's your problem?
Just keep
You aren't
going,
about you
man.
aren't about snacks? You aren't about snacks? Um,
No comment.
so they've got some work to do. And then LSU, same problem as Clemson, but they changed their coach. So and then Ohio, I mean, look, the future holds too. Ohio State, at some stage, they're going to win the national championship. Am I wrong? I never said that about Texas A&M.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that they've had some really talented teams the last couple of years. Um, I don't
So
know.
so
I
did
think I
so
might
did
be a little
Georgia.
lower
So
on
did
the. I think,
Georgia.
yeah, and they won national
That's
championships.
my
I mean,
point.
but I know I got to see it with Ohio State and Ryan Day. I don't know. I think I might be a little bit lower on them
Okay.
than maybe the general public. Just as far, I don't know. I don't know if they'll win a national championship in the next 2 or 3 years. I'm not
I
convinced.
have a quote that's going to be in a what we were hearing coming soon. I
Okay.
asked someone who's been around the block, and so earmuffs for younger people. I asked about Ryan Day, and the person I'm talking to is mainly SEC folks, but said Ryan Day has a shit ton of respect. No one in coaching world is shitting on him, but they won't tolerate losing to Michigan 3 years in a row. By the way, that's what you're missing out on the site if you're not a member of Dog Post. So that's going to be coming out over on the site with a lot more context soon. But I think Ohio State will win it at some stage. They're just kind of too good not to. The way they've been recruiting, but they got to do it too. Now you're replacing a quarterback who was really, really good. I think that's the thing with Georgia. They're replacing a quarterback who's really, really good too. But let me try to see if I can get. Let me try to see if I can get this just real quick, Ryan. Let me see. People will see what I'm talking about. There. Yes, let's go. All right, you can't see it, Ryan, but there's
No,
the
I don't know
board.
what's happening.
I know you don't, but you see me. There's the board. Boy, I
I'll
can't do
just
this
chill
right.
back here.
I can't do this well at all. But this is what we look at. This is what I'm looking at when I'm always on, checking that out on the side. How can I get rid of this now? That's the board that I take a look at. But let's get rid of it. I don't want everybody seeing my taxes. That's not true. Those are long gone. I think Ohio State. I mean, I think this is going to become a battle royale of Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, LSU, Alabama. I'm going to put USC in there. Who am I missing? I mean, are you ready to put Florida State or Clemson in that bunch? What I always say this:
Nah,
the winner of that grouping, because the ACC doesn't have divisions anymore, they definitely can be in that bunch.
they
Uh,
can. I got to see it. I got to
okay,
see it.
and
We're in a different world than 2016,
O-
2017. You know
Oklahoma,
what I mean?
Texas, Oklahoma, Texas,
I got to see it.
Auburn, Tennessee,
No, definitely not Auburn.
Tennessee.
Tennessee, maybe, but
Okay,
I think they'll dip this year a little bit.
uh, Michigan State, Penn State.
I think the circle's small, man. I think it's a
Yeah, I
small
think it is
circle.
too.
I
I
think it's
think
a
it.
small circle.
I think it's a small bunch. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.